Hi, welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton show. Another exciting show and definitely another exciting guest. Let me tell you where we're about to go with this. We're going to revisit some of the inspirational guests from season 1, season 2, and season 3. One in particular guest, her story was really interesting in season 1. She always had the passion of getting into law enforcement, and in the last, let's say, 3 to 4 years since appearing on season 1, she continuously is evolving, doing greater things as it relates to law enforcement, but more importantly, helping young women to navigate not only preparing for college, but health, physically and mentally. But without further ado, let's welcome back to the show from season 1, the only Miss Jill Marie Lees. What's up, Miss Lees? What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Andre? Always a pleasure to be back. So honored to be asked to come in today.
I've been following your career. You've been doing some pretty remarkable things. Catch us before we get into what you've done over the last couple of years. Tell the viewers a little bit about you. Like, tell me a little bit about your story. Like, How did it all start out?
Sure. I'm homegrown Indiana Hoosier.
Best place in the world.
That's right. Absolutely. I didn't grow up in the Indianapolis area. I grew up in Hammond, Indiana.
Okay. That's Crown Point area near Chicago. Yeah, I love that area.
I could walk to Chicago from my house, ride my bike to Lake Michigan, so that was a blessing.
Okay.
Had really good childhood up there, and was able to really learn about law enforcement when I was a teenager. Mm-hmm. I had a mentor at the state police when I went to the state police career camp, and she really, really inspired me that to be a police officer, but that women could be police officers too. And I really took up that path.
Did you have law enforcement in your bloodline?
A little bit. My dad was in corrections, so not as a child though. He was in the military, so I always had that like duty to serve, whether it was our community, our country, and just really worked my way to go to Indiana University after high school. And that's where I was selected to be a part-time police officer, a cadet officer, and went through the police academy there before I graduated. What
were some of the biggest obstacles that you had to encounter? We know Hammond, Indiana is a small suburb type city next to Crown Point and Valparaiso and all those those are what I call very home pocket environments. Like everybody knows you there. There doesn't appear to be a lot of what we might call struggle life in those particular areas. What was like for you growing up there? Because you're trying to get into the law enforcement field, but I guess during that time, not trying to tell our ages by any means, evidently that wasn't something that was widely looked upon. Right. Going into law enforcement. What was it like for you as a child growing up in Hammond?
Hammond was different than Crown Point and Valpo. It was more of a struggle type area. I come from a blue collar family.
I'm going to say that's blue collar because I keep forgetting that's where the steel mill is.
Steel mills. I'm from a steel mill family. Yeah. You're either on one side of the law
or you on the side. Yeah.
And, I always wanted to be a police officer, but when I went and left to go to college, I learned so much more. There was like a bigger world out there. I never left my neighborhood growing up, really, very much.
You didn't go to Gary much either, did you?
A little bit.
Really? Oh, we'll talk after the show.
Went to Michael Jackson's house a lot, that area is so cool. Yeah. But I really knew that I didn't want to go back home to serve. Mm-hmm. I knew there was a bigger world out there. I wanted to see it and experience it. So I was very fortunate that when I graduated Indiana University that I was hired by the Plainfield Police Department.
How many women were you shocked when you went to IU and saw what you might have perceived as limited female opportunities actually becoming more abundant?
Yeah, absolutely. IU had the experience of having many more female officers than Hammond did, or that I saw growing up. And the coolest thing, and this is, I'm going to get off track just a little bit.
Go ahead.
But something great that I'm working on is that I was actually the third female officer ever hired at the Plainfield Police Department.
Wow.
So that was very unique. And I obviously was not from that area, which was more rural back at the time.
Now let me think for a minute. Let me look at my Indiana 465 map. Plainfield is west.
Yes, right behind the airport.
Okay, now I know where we're at.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Put a dot on the map there. But back then it was a lot of cornfields.
I was going to say that was corn. You know, it's so funny. My daughter lives in Brownsburg now.
Oh,
and I keep telling her, I say, I remember, not trying to show your dad's age, but I remember when all this stuff was cornfield. Right. I remember when they built the first Myers in Avon.
Yes.
And it was so funny because my buddy's parents owned the restaurant where they used to do the roller skates, and they were Bill's Fabulous 50s.
Okay.
They owned Bill's Fabulous 50s, calls for owner's billiard. And we had to go to get something for the restaurant. And his girlfriend happened to live in Avon. This was about in the late 80s. And it was the first time that I walked in that store and a little kid asked his mom, who was that person? Because they had never seen a person of color.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That just shows you like how we evolved, but it really wasn't that long ago, because that was like in the 80s.
No, it wasn't that long ago.
There was no blacks in those particular areas. What was you feeling when you became like the first woman? Was there any involvement with trying to deal with the preparation of minorities coming into that area, or that wasn't even a concern at that time?
Not really, to be honest with you. I mean, again, I was the third woman ever to serve on the police department.
Right.
The cool thing is, and this is where I'm really excited about plugging this a little bit, is I'm actually helping an older gentleman in Plainfield write the history of the Plainfield Police Department.
Really?
Yes. And with that, I'm just uncovering so many facts about the town, about the police department and who served and how long ago it was. I mean, I'm in the infant stages here, but
so what's been amazing? What's been so amazing so far with this, Chuck, that maybe I didn't even know? Because I don't know much about Plainfield. Right. I don't know much about. I know rumors of what I've heard, and it's just call it what it is, rumors. Yeah. But naturally, times have changed. So, what are some of the things that you found surprising in your research so far?
Well, I just feel that the people that have settled Plainfield, they came from Guilford, North Carolina.
What?
And they settled in North Carolina from England. Everybody was kind of, settling and moving because of persecution for religious beliefs.
Right.
So Plainfield was settled by a group of Quakers, and they wanted their own religious freedom. And I haven't really dove into what exactly is a Quaker. But we are Quakers in town. That's our mascot.
Really?
But we have a historic Friends Church. We have, historic Old National Road, US 40, that goes through Plainfield.
I know about US 40.
And that was the all points back in the 1800s of heading out west for the gold rush and for other historic events too.
Yeah.
So, Plainfield does have some history of, I feel like it's founded by people that kind of wanted to be their own group.
Right.
And now it's funny, I see people with t-shirts. I don't know when this motto came to be, but Plainfield, you think, oh, it's plain. Mm-hmm. But I saw a gentleman this morning wearing a t-shirt that said, Plainfield is anything but plain. Yeah. And it's really become more diverse. Yeah. We now have an international festival. We have this Back Your Badge marathon, half marathon, 5K for public safety that I ran this morning. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot more, broadness and diversity, right. And it's very welcoming. It's been a very good town to raise my son, to live.
Have you did you have any other choices that you was looking into moving when you came here? Because you have Carmel, you have Westfield, you have Fishers. Look, I'm just plugging all the major.
Absolutely.
And I like Speedway. I grew up on the west side when I came here. But what I found Speedway was interesting was I didn't see a lot of growth with the city. I didn't see them growing. Now Speedway is completely changed.
Speedway's amazing. Yeah. Brownsburg is.
I'm going to tell you how amazing this is. Last time I went to Speedway was a couple of weeks ago. And you remember you used to be able to go down the back of the track. I think it's Georgetown Road. It's closed off. Mm-hmm. I was like, what just happened? I need to maybe tour a little bit more. Right. The city is completely evolving all the way around. But back to the law enforcement part. Yeah. Found founded by Quakers. How much of a shock was that for you? Because I would think that Indiana would not have been so much European more than Native American.
Right. No, absolutely. And there is definitely a lot of Native American tribes that, settled, that originally lived here in Indiana. But I find, I always knew the town was settled by Quakers, but I didn't know a lot of the details behind it. Mm-hmm. And now I'm just uncovering more and more. And then then you have to keep your town safe.
Yeah.
And then, it kind of keeps going of when was the town actually incorporated and how the police department formed, and look at pictures of the old cars. And our first female officer ever, she actually had a canine dog. And probably, back then, which I would say would be the late 70s, early 80s, that was probably unheard of.
Right.
So that was kind of unique. I had the opportunity to meet her once before I retired, and that was so cool to see. I mean, think about it.
What did you ask her? What was your first question that you asked her?
Yeah, I just asked her, basically, how are you? A career in law enforcement takes such a toll on you that, I kind of wanted to hear where she went and what she did and, all of that. And being retired has a great smile on her face,
Really?
So unfortunately, she's passed away a couple years ago. But I just feel like it was an honor to meet her because she helped pave the way for the second female officer we had. And then that female officer helped pave the way for me. So I always felt it was my passion and my responsibility to pave the way for that next generation of women. So they don't have to, maybe deal with the same things I did, or just kind of how to fit in, how to get along. And we need women.
What kind of valuable information did she share with you that you carry to this day? Like a little tidbit of knowledge that she managed to hand on over to you.
I think her love of the job. I mean, that keeps me going. I love this job. This job is very difficult, but I feel like it was a calling for me. And that's why I continue to serve. It's making that difference in the community. And no matter which role I serve in, I always try to give 110%, no matter what, because many times we're showing up on people's worst day.
Yeah.
And I will tell you,
usually if the police is called, it's somebody's worst day.
Yeah. But I feel like I have this positive energy and this vibe where I feel like I have good karma, where people they'll just tell me their life story, whether it's on a traffic stop. I'm like, hey, we got to move out of the road if you're going to talk, or, or at a different scene, a domestic or something else. And I've always given people the time to, and I remember on the first show, I was like, hey, when I was a rookie, I was like, let's go. I got stuff to do.
Yeah. Totally different now.
But you live and learn, and you learn by mistakes and falling forward, though. And I feel that it is just so important to give people that time, because when they say, I remember you were my dare officer in the 6th grade, you were one of the only people that ever cared about me and listened to me. That is that keeps me going.
This is a question that we also asked on Black Shield podcast with 3 male figures that talk about their career in the law enforcement. So I'm going to ask you some of the same questions that I would ask them. When you first came on season 1, like you said, you was very rigid. You're doing what you're supposed to do. But do you honestly think that law enforcement officers would be a lot better in their training if they learn more of compassion? I get safety.
Yes.
I get safety.
Safety is always paramount.
But I think you said something that really touched home, and we talked about this even on the Black Shield. If the police is showing up at your door, any type of law enforcement, it's not a good day.
No.
I would think I would first start out with trying to figure out how to do what? De-escalate the situation. I'm going to get to my question.
Yeah.
Do you find when you're out that there is a different reaction when men roll up to a scene versus a woman? Because I would think a woman would come up to the scene even though it's safety, she's still going to try to de-escalate and come from, let me understand what's going on, to where most men will be, they carry the testosterone into the situation, in the adrenaline, versus the compassion. What's your take on that?
You know, I think as police officers, we all have that, how we can help and how we can get information out of people. And a lot of times when I show up, people can't wait to tell me what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to give you all my secrets on the show. But
we're going to have you come back on board too.
But I do have some kind of secrets that I've kind of adapted over the years to get people to talk. And in a way that is de-escalating, but it's also, they're going to tell me what's going on. And again, I have that face that I feel like people tell me their life story. And I will tell you, having a woman sometimes show up on domestic violence situations and cases is really, really good for the victims, because I have walked into a house where like the male officer's already investigating and they're not doing anything wrong. Okay. I want to make that clear. I work with some amazing police officers, but when I walk in, you can see the women's shoulders, just like the breath, the exhale, oh, glad you're here. You know what I mean? Because I feel like they feel that they can make that connection.
What happens if it's reverse situation? Women ain't the only one that usually.
No, I agree.
So what happens when you show up on the scene and it's a reverse situation?
Yeah,
it's the man being domestic violence placed upon him.
And I think that's important to communicate. I think we have really good communication skills. And again, we have really good, we can make good connection with people. It doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
And I think that's so important, of getting the job done, but doing it in such a compassionate way where you're still safe and you can de-escalate.
Yeah. And I agree with that, because I think we had the mayor of Carmel on, and we was talking about she talked about the new police, Carmel police captain or whatever, and she wasn't aware of the tension of racial stuff that was still going on here. And, you know, Carmel's always had the thing of, you know, racial profiling. What they said, it doesn't happen. At least not, it had happened to me.
Right.
But I remember one time I was sharing with her, I got pulled over by a Carmel Police Department. I was leaving the studio and it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was raining. Never forget, it was raining. And I'm on my way to the house, and I see him pull off, and he pulls me over, and I have no idea why I'm getting pulled over. You know what I mean? And he comes up to me and he says, you know, where you coming from? I said, I'm coming from the studio. And just his whole demeanor was really nice. He didn't come at me with a bad attitude, you know, and he said, I just want you to know your license plate tag cover is out. Okay, how many times do we look at little stuff like that in the middle of the night?
Sure.
I look at it, and he said, I just wanted you to know, and boom, I remember sharing that with the mayor, because if I had gotten in my mind the rumors, and if the rumors constantly stayed in my mind, I would have been nervous. He would have been nervous. And I'm not trained to know how to de-escalate. I don't know his trade of thought. But this is my question to you. Knowing that you're now in Plainfield, knowing that there's a lot of diverse culture now in Brownsburg and Speedway and Plainfield, how were you guys trained to deal with that? And more importantly, how were you able to deal with it as a female officer?
Right. I mean, we go through de-escalation training. They bring expert instructors in. And I think that's really important to have. And I had a lot of that when I. Why
do you think it's important to have? I'm just curious.
I think it's important to have de-escalation training. And I think it's, you know, an understanding other cultures, because other cultures are different in how, they communicate, and, you know, how
stories have been told. Yeah.
They're used to, like if they're pulled over in their country, it's totally culturally different than in our country. So I think that's really important to have. And I think it's just a good way to constantly keep our skills sharp, because we have to learn better communications and better ways of dealing with people and kind of getting to the root cause of different things. And I pulled people over and I can just see them scared. And usually if I'm pulling you over, it's for a pretty good reason. So I'm not, fishing or profiling or anything, but scared. And I will stop right there and say, hey, this is why I stopped you. It's going to be okay. Okay. Take a breath. We'll work through this, however I have to communicate in a safe way, safety first, but always making sure that people don't feel like, what is she going to do? I explain everything. Right. And then I'm very, very happy on how Hendricks County as a whole trains for mental health. Because that's a whole other sharp left turn that we could take on this conversation, because mental health is huge. And so, I've been a police officer over 30 years, and I finally was able to attend a full week of CIT training, which really focuses on the mental health aspects, but also the resources that we have in our county. And that's great. I'm very proud of that.
Have you ran across a case that you had to encounter with that type of behavior that you was unaware, but certain behavior warranted that maybe you're getting ready to deal with somebody that has some type of mental, because you don't know, people get behind the wheel. Yeah. People get behind the wheel all the time.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is about this training, we have to do 4 hours of clinical work at a behavioral hospital.
Oh.
So either, anywhere, in the city or, Plainfield or wherever. And what's really nice, when I went up there, I would sit in assessments and then they would look at me and say, what do you think it is? Well, again, as the police officer, I'm not going to diagnose or any of that, but they really challenged me and put my training to the test. And I was really happy to say, oh, I think it's this and this. And they're like, that's exactly right. So the more we know about mental health, the more we can help people.
So now when you're pulling somebody over, you're working a party or a concert, you can kind of get an idea of behavior patterns, so to speak.
Well, and you can tell, people that we might deal with frequently, what's their baseline? They're having a bad day. And, how can we help them with mental health resources? Because, we just don't want to take them to jail if they haven't committed any crimes, right? So it's mental health is a huge piece in law enforcement. And we're getting better at training officers and recognizing.
What's your take now with the social media and their portray of legal rights, Fifth Amendment, all these different amendments as it relates to law enforcement, traffic stops, and so forth? What's your take on that? And have you guys, as a whole, with your department, because every department is different, has social media is social media becoming not a criminal, but a major pain in the ass for law enforcement, because people are now feeling like their rights are being violated? They're quoting the Constitution. Everybody's on edge. How do you work on a de-escalation that's basically an infectious disease through the whole world right now, which is social media?
Right. Social media is awful. It's just awful any way around, right?
Yeah.
Now I get really good information off of it, but currently my position's at a high school. I deal with kids on social media all day long, right? But in regards to different First Amendment auditors and all of that kind of stuff and how it relates to law enforcement, we just work with people. People have the right to do X, Y, and Z, and the more we're calm, cool, and collected, and we do our job, it doesn't escalate into some crazy video you might see on the internet.
I'd be seeing some crazy video. Like I saw this one where the lady pulled the guy over and the guy goes, "You don't have the right to do this to me." And he was filming. I'm like, what's right and what's wrong?
Right.
Does the police really have a right to just stop somebody on the street and ask for ID? That, what's your definition of suspicious behavior, and what does suspicious behavior actually entitle you to do versus what it entitles me not to be doing? I think that's what I hear mostly: suspicious behavior. A police officer is pulling somebody over, messing with them, on suspicious. What is suspicious behavior, and what does it have to, and how was that addressed when it comes to you as a police officer being on the street and encountering individuals?
Well, I will tell you this, that people, and we always tell people, like when people think people are suspicious, we always say call the police, right? Because we don't want you to have to encounter someone and you don't know what's happening. Mm-hmm. But I tell you what, on the receiving end of that, as a previous supervisor and police officer out there on the street, my first question to dispatch is what makes them, suspicious? Because to me, if you can't logically give me a good reason for it,
right,
I'm not messing with it, right?
Right.
Because people have the right to sit in a parking lot and read a book, for maybe they're out there for their lunch break.
Right.
Or maybe they're waiting on a child somewhere and it's just like, this car is suspicious. I'd rather, yes, people call that in because maybe that's the car that's going to break 20 of our burglary cases. Mm-hmm. But I really feel like a lot of times people call people in suspicious because of different reasons. Mm-hmm. And that's where a good police officer will ask, well, what is going on, or what is suspicious about this activity?
If you come up on me and somebody calls in and I'm sitting there reading a book, do I have the right to give you my information if I'm not committing a crime? Or like you said, somebody's interpretation of suspicious is would be different if I'm just sitting there.
Right.
So if you come up to me and say, sir, we got to report suspicious behavior, can I see your driver license? Am I allowed to give you my driver license? Am I ordered to give you my driver license?
Well, I mean, at that point, we're trying to identify you to see if, there's anything suspicious, but or
do I have to give you any information?
Well, usually
because I haven't committed a crime.
Right, exactly. And again, I don't want all the listeners to be like, we don't have to do this or we have to do this.
Right.
But in general, what I always try to do is discern as I'm pulling up, is this something I want to approach? Or I want to, are they suspicious? They, mm-hmm. assess the situation first, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you get into that ball of wax and you end up dealing with someone that's like, I'm not telling you who I am, and, because most people are like, hey, I'm just sitting here because of this, and sure, I'm happy to give you X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. But,
would I go to jail if I don't provide you my information, if I'm just sitting there and someone just happened to call and says there's a suspicious behavior? If you're coming up on me, am I allowed to, will I go to jail if I don't provide you information because you are a police officer?
Right.
And I don't want to obstruct justice, but would I be arrested?
It's a sticky situation. It's one of those where it's hard to answer sometimes. Like on a traffic stop, yes, because you have committed an infraction.
Driving infraction.
Yes.
Motor vehicle infraction.
Yeah, you committed a motor vehicle infraction.
Okay.
And I go up to the window and you roll your window up on me, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's a whole different story.
Yeah. But if I'm just sitting in a park,
kind of a case-by-case situation of a lot of times if you are suspicious, you're going to leave before I get there, or if you see me pull up, you're leaving.
Thank you.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're not, then I don't mind going up and having a conversation to see what we have, and, may or may not ask for the ID depending on what the answers I get, what I observe. I mean, there's so much that goes with it mm-hmm. that it's very hard for me to just.
And obviously, I wasn't trying to put you under the bus. Right, I'm trying to let people understand, like, from your standpoint as a police officer, from what we're seeing on social media, what exactly are my rights? Naturally, the ideal of the day is we both want to go home or go to our destination. Yeah. But I don't want to be inconvenienced.
No.
But I also don't want somebody to use the power of the badge to intimidate me at the same time.
Exactly. And I think it takes people to be vulnerable on both sides, for the police officer not to bring ego to the situation, mm-hmm. and for the other person not to be defensive and just have a conversation.
Speaking of ego, how do you guys keep that from being a cancer in the police department? Because most police officers, and they talked about this on Black Shield, they do have their ego. They called an episode "The Ego in the Badge." Mm. How do you prevent that from happening? A lot of times it goes unreported. A lot of people won't even report it.
Exactly. I mean, I think a lot of people could have complaints
Mhm.
on how they're treated or talked to, but choose not to report that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I think being a previous supervisor, I think it takes that good supervisor to kind of make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be and cross-checking and having those conversations with their officers. But at the end of the day, it's up to me. I look at myself in the mirror every day before I leave for work. And even if, we are human too.
Right.
And when we go to work with heavy burdens of personal issues or issues at work, it makes it difficult sometimes to do our job. Because sometimes...
Well, don't you think if I'm a police officer, male or female, and I'm having emotional situations at home,
yeah,
shouldn't I be responsible for my health and say my situation right now? Say, for instance, my wife was cheated on me or whatever, and I got to go to work. She left me and blah, blah, blah. It should be, this is just me speaking, there should be mandatory things put in place to where you don't come to work. Because you know what? You got a gun and a badge.
No, exactly.
And I don't know what's going to trigger you. What run you might go on that might offset you to do something that can wind up endangering that person and myself. What's your take on that?
Oh, absolutely. I would equate us, and I think we talked about this in season 1 on the episode about how police officers are really on the same wavelength as like professional athletes.
Yeah.
Remember that conversation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To me, every day is game day. Every day I have to be 100%. And that's where being part of our peer support team, where I work now, it's so important that we recognize the signs and supervisors that are good recognize and check in with their crew or their squad, because they don't need to be at work if we have to look out for each other that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's so important. Mental health, physical health, personal problems at home. And I think that is the key of wellness for all of us. We have a tough job to do, but we have to be spot on.
Yeah. What has been the most challenging part for you? From season 1 to where we're at now, which is what, 4 years later? Wow. Such a
time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems like just yesterday. What has been 3 of the most difficult hurdles for you to overcome so far to get to where you're at?
I think starting over.
What do you mean by that?
When I left Indiana University in the fall of 2023, I went to the Hendricks County Sheriff's Office January of 2024 and became a merit deputy on patrol on night shift.
Congratulations. I remember, I'm following you on social media. I see everything that you're doing. I'm like, she got another badge. Oh, she got another award.
And you know what? That has been the best thing for me because I had not worked road patrol in 25 years.
Yeah.
And to be out there, and I think it was challenging because, I'm older than a lot of the deputies that serve. And I feel like, that was starting over was difficult. But I made it. I did awesome and I flourished there. Then losing a partner in the line of duty.
I'm sorry to hear that.
We lost Deputy Fred Fizzler.
I remember that. You guys posted something
April
about
16th
that.
of 2024. That took the air out of my sail. As a previous, chief and deputy chief and all the way through the ranks in different agencies, I had never dealt with line of duty death at our own department. And this was very difficult for me because I was working the night he died. And then working through that, and then switched over, I became a school resource officer. So I'm back at school corporation working at a high school assigned by the sheriff's department. And that has been, just different, unique challenges and changes. And as we get older, sometimes we don't want to deal with change, but I've embraced it 100%. And I've done the very best that I could. And now that I'm back on a regular schedule, I've really taken the time to focus on myself.
Before we wrap up, and thank you so much for taking time to come here and bless my studio with your presence again. It's always a pleasure to see you and follow you on social media to see the progress that you're doing, not only in law enforcement, but as a woman in general, setting curves and allowing women and young women to know that it's so funny. Even my daughter applied for law enforcement. She's actually going to school for criminal psychology.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, really? And my son is in the FBI He graduated his college degree and he's in Florida working cold cases as his intern.
I love it.
I'm thinking, what just happened to my life?
They watched the podcast with me on it.
So what's next for you? What's next for you?
Oh.
Wait, before you answer this question, this was my question. I was going to say, what was it now? What was I getting ready to say to you that was real crucial? Son of a gun. Oh, well, I forgot it. It'll come back to me. Well,
okay.
What's next for you? What's next for you?
So as we learned in the first episode that I was in, like my favorite word is opportunity. I'm not going to turn down an opportunity for growth. I have grown so much in the past couple years, really working on myself, really growing in spirituality as well. And I just feel like every day is kind of like next level. What's my next goal? What am I going to do? Last year, I ran my first marathon. Next summer, I'm looking at running kind of a backyard ultra marathon to really put that endurance to the test. So I'm always trying to challenge myself physically, mentally, and spiritually.
I found my question.
Yes.
Okay. My brother told me that he feels a good law enforcement agency should have experience in all areas of law enforcement, from sheriffs, blah, 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 blah. This makes you good at your craft. What's your take on that?
Oh, I agree 100%. I've worked campus policing, city policing, campus policing again, and now I'm wearing brown at the sheriff's office. I absolutely love it. And it's been different. It has a different vibe and different take. There is a lot more going on at different levels of where you're at or different organizations. And to be able to learn more about it has been amazing. So I feel like I'm growing in my career, even though I'm hitting the twilight years.
What's been the most amazing part of this journey outside of spiritual growth, mental growth? What has been that one spark that when you look back from the first time I met you to your whole complete journey, what has been that one little fire that you look back and say, I done it?
I think, to be honest with you, it is the people that I've watched from this tall and grow up and basically come up to me and say, you made a difference in my life. There is nothing better to hear.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Than saying, do you remember when? I mean, there's a lot of people that I've influenced or inspired or motivated or, and I'm just so proud of that. And I'm the most humble person. I don't like to talk about myself. I'm not egotistical, but that is one thing I'm super proud of is the people that know me in the county all over that have said I've made a difference in one part of their life or another. And now, to give you an example, one girl I worked with a lot when she was younger wants me to meet with her daughter.
Wow.
And I think that's inspiring. And I'm going to do that in October. And, I just remember, all the fun times I had with her when she was younger and trying to help shape her to make good choices, that now she wants me to meet with her daughter about career choices.
Wow.
So to me, that keeps me going. Yeah. Like if I need that in my life.
You know what? I appreciate you so much coming onto the show. Like I said, it's always a blessing to see you. Definitely going to have you come back and be a part of the Black Shield.
Oh, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I would love to have you come on there. I know those guys would too, and get a woman's perspective. 30 years in law enforcement.
Yes.
Wow, that's mind-boggling. Yeah, we definitely got to have you a part of that. How can the viewers reach out to you on social media to follow you? Because your journey is so beautiful. How can they reach out to you?
Sure, I'm on LinkedIn. Jill Lees. I try to keep a low profile on Facebook and different things, but I'm on
because
Facebook
somebody's watching.
I mean, being a law enforcement officer, you have to be a little careful. LinkedIn's probably the best way, but I am on Facebook and Instagram as well. So, and X, I guess I'm on all of it. So, just they could reach out and
know everything.
I love to connect. Yes. I try to post motivational things, and I love when people say to me, oh, I love watching your Facebook posts. They're pretty positive. They're motivational. And my running journey, that's my passion.
Okay. Jill, thank you so much. Hey, guys, make sure you reach out, you support, you follow. If you got kids that that wants to know more about law enforcement from a female or male standpoint, reach out to Jill Marie Lees on social media. This has been another. Let me sit up here. And I do mean another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.